family. I think it's so important that I have really good access to my teachers, and when I don't, I go see them. I have my uncle, my chief, Phil Lane, who I had honor to have as a teacher for the last 20 years, as well as Lee Brown, my auntie Gwen, my uncle Sam, and all my brothers and sisters here. Those are essential to the commitment of the walk that I have in this way of life. The ceremonies we do, they're just not ceremonies that we have just for a couple hours a week. This is what they teach me, how to be a human being, how to be a good son, a good nephew, and especially what is really, really important to me that came out of the biggest teachers that I have had. That's my son Cedar right here and my daughter Kaya. When they were born, what I was taught was to have that spiritual connection that we have with our kids. But what I was taught is they were born pure and beautiful and perfect, with no prejudice, no anger, no hate, no judgment, none of that negativity of what our society teaches us. They were born perfect. I made a vow when my son was born that I'd do the best in my parenting capabilities to make sure that he has that love and look in his eyes. As you see some of the babies that are around here today, the little ones, the 2-year-olds and under, and some of the older ones too, they look at you with that look that each and every one of us are born with. No prejudice, no anger, no hate, none of that. They look at you the way they look at their parents is with unconditional love. Unconditional love. And their parents, they hold them, they love them, they take care of them, and they have that beautiful connection with them. But the babies also share that with you, and we could be strangers to them. They share that with you. So what we try to do is our teachers, they in a way simplified a way of being for us. The best we could be physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Taking the fundamentals of humanity, of love, honor, respect, dignity, pride, forgiveness, passion, compassion, understanding, truth, knowledge, and wisdom, all these good things applied to ourselves as a human being, because that's what we're born with. We're born with those beautiful things. I share this story often about my daughter and my son and how they are and how good they are to me. We're about to watch a movie, and my daughter and I were picking a movie, and I looked at her and I said, "Oh, geez, Kaya, you're so beautiful. When I look at you, I'm just happy because you're so beautiful. You just fill my spirit up just by being beside each other. That's what you do to me, my baby." And she's like, we started watching the TV again, and she goes, "Dad." And I kept on watching the TV, and she goes, "Dad." And she grabbed my chin and she said, "Look me right in my eye." And she said, "When I look at you, I feel the same way. You feed my spirit. You feed me, and I love you so much, I smile and I giggle." And she smiled and she giggled. The reason why we do ceremonies, like for example, I am a Sundance chief, and it's an arbor like this, and we have a tree in the middle. The tree in the middle opens the door so we could dance with our ancestors in the Sundance, but it opens the door to have a direct channel to Creator. That's what the Sundancers have. And we do ceremonies to build us up before we go Sundance. We do pipe ceremonies, we do sweat ceremonies, Uweepi ceremonies, vision quests. We have a naming ceremony. And if you're really lucky to find somebody you love and honor that ceremony that you have with one another and how you feed your spirit, we have marriage. All those things are help us to maintain, like my children, the beauty that we're born with. But it also helps us if we forgot some of those teachings about how to go back to that. I don't want to waste the opportunity in the Sundance ceremony of when I have a direct line of communication to Creator. I don't want to waste that opportunity because I'm dealing with my hurt and my pain and my trauma. And all the negativity that I learned through my alcoholism and through my drug addictions. I try, and I'm a human being, and I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, and sometimes I tell people, I said, don't use me as an example, because I'm not a good one about how to be good sometimes. I'm a human being, and I make mistakes. But also, too, my spirit is different from yours. How the teachings apply to me are going to be different how they apply to you, but the fundamentals will be the same. So when I have that moment with Creator at the Sundance, I try to move all the things out of my way so I could have that beautiful connection, so I could experience that experience to the best of my capabilities. And I understood now, or I see some of my teachers also out here, I understood why sometimes when they would reprimand me and they would tell me with urgency to sit down and to listen and to be disciplined, what they wanted me to have was to experience their experiences. And they still want that from me, and they still talk to me like that. To experience their experiences, to experience that full connection to that tree. When we achieve something good and beautiful like that, then we could pass it to the other people that we love. There was nothing standing in the way at that moment with my children. When I tell my son I love him, and I tell my daughter I love him, there's nothing standing in our way when we hug. I do the best to let go of my trauma and my hurt, and I share that with them. And when I make a mistake, my son right here is like, I was getting mad at him. Come on, son, do this. And he goes, why are you getting mad, Dad? Why are you getting mad? And I looked at him and I said, geez, sorry, why am I getting mad? Let me just love you and have that experience with you like I do with that tree. Or like I did in that profound, beautiful time with my daughter, and she grabbed my chin and said, look at me, Dad. Let me show you how I love you, Dad. Those are the experiences we're talking about when we talk about our ceremonies. In whatever way it's said, any religious or any spiritual belief, the same fundamentals are the same. The fundamentals are the same. Some may do it different, where we use sage and sweetgrass and tobacco and cedar. Some use incense. Some use candles, sacred fire, whatever it might be, to bless ourselves and to clean our energy. We use those tools like the sweat lodge to help us. And the ceremony doesn't start when we just pour water on the rocks. It starts when we go get the lava rocks, for example. My kids, when they're little, I said, come on, just pick up a rock and let's put it in the truck. And both my kids at different times said, no, Dad, I'm going to pick a good one. They know the spiritual connection with that rock. They know that when that rock is heated, that it's going to release some of the earth's energy and give us blessings. Look at the earth. No matter how bad we treat her, she's always replenishing life. And the sweat lodge is the womb of Mother Earth, as I am taught. And it's the womb of Mother Earth. The lava rocks come from the center of her, like where our spirit sits here in that warm place in the center of our heart. That maybe the spirit of Mother Earth is there where we get the lava rocks that come out, and that's a gift to us. Or when we get the trees, that's a ceremony in itself. We take the tree down. Some ceremony, it's so sacred we don't let it touch the ground. The Sundance, we chop a big tree down like this, and we don't let it touch the ground, we catch it. All the Sundancers catch it, and it's holy, and we pack it. We pack it. But the tree, it reaches out to the sky, and the leaves catch the energy of the sun. And we take that energy and we make a fire with it, and we release that energy of the sun back onto those rocks. That's a ceremony in itself. It's a ceremony how we build the lodge with those 16 ribs that go into the ground. We do a prayer with tobacco to put into the hole, every single one. Let that rib in the sweat be protection. Because we all know here how harmful it is, or how backward our society is and how they teach. I like one thing that Mother Teresa always says. She says, at one end of the world, people are starving to death. And that's true. And that's really sad. She says, at the other end of the world, people's spirits are starving to death, and that makes her just as sad. I'm just talking about here in North America. How people could be disconnected. My two kids and I, we used to go down and visit one of my relatives that lived right downtown, and we'd walk right downtown. And they're really young, and they say, what's wrong with Uncle? I said, how come he looks different? I said, because he's on drugs and his spirit's not there. Then they started catching on with regular people. What's wrong with that person? A business person. And I said, the same thing. It's disconnected from their spirit a little bit. So, in our ceremonies, we learn that. We learn how to replenish our spirit. We learn how to have a connection to it. And we use all the elements of what I'm talking about. We pour water on the rocks. We use the fire. We use eagle fans to represent the air. And we sit on the earth and in the womb of Mother Earth. What that also teaches us is how to have a spiritual connection to these elements. A loving and a spiritual connection, what I'm talking about, what I have with my daughter, with the sacred tree, with the sweat lodge, it teaches me that. And down in Rio, it was a little bit hard for me for some things. Actually, going right into the UN summit was a little bit hard. Some of the people that were making those decisions didn't have that, what I'm talking about, what we're working on here. And my teachers, they remind me, never stop working. Nothing wrong with making good people better. Always try to move forward. And right in the UN summit, it was hard like that. Because some of the people weren't even disconnected to their own spirit, but they want to save the earth. And that's a good start. That's admirable in itself. But what I learned at that summit of what's going to happen, of what my good relative, my beautiful friend, Daryl Bob, and all the... I'm sorry, I should have said this in the very beginning. We did in a song, but all the good people here in this nation right here, Statlium territory, thank you for allowing us to be in your territory. Thank you for allowing us to teach and share and to learn from your beautiful ways. Thank you for holding this and letting us and having a place for us to come down and to feed our spirit. I thank you for that. But what I found is that when I went down there were government representatives that were trying to make decisions to make things happen. But things happen in the way that I talked about in the beginning, is to feed in ourselves, to have that spiritual connection to the elements. And when we love those things, then we could move forward and try to fix something about them. Until 2 weeks ago, I was the Director of Community Development for my nation. I took care of the education programs, the social programs, and the employment programs. No matter what anybody of the staff wanted to introduce in those programs, I did my best to make sure they added culture and spirituality to everything that we're doing. Because that's what my teachers taught me. My uncles, my aunties right here, my brothers and sisters, to apply our culture and spirituality in everything I do, because it's not just a ceremony that I do, that's a couple days a week. We call it a way of life. To be a better father to my kids. So when I was down there, I saw that some people were disconnected, and I told you it was admirable. But also too, I got to sit with the First Nations from all over Uncle and I in South America, from Uruguay, Argentina, to Brazil, to Cambodia, to all the southern places, and they're having gatherings like this. They're sharing our indigenous ways with all the four directions of our world. As my beautiful uncle says, this isn't the time to start thinking about the prophecies. Right now is the time of the prophecies. Right now is the time to unite the condor and the eagle. Right now is to stand up and do something about it, because the intimate relationship that we have with our spirit, the intimate relationship that we have with our kids and our Creator and our ancestors on this earth has to come together and apply it now. Come together and apply it now and do something about it now. And all those nations are doing that. Just like right here. Daryl and his family and the relatives here were a mighty pebble that was thrown into the pond and rippled out to the world. brought in different guest speakers, and they know about this gathering. The indigenous people from North and South America know about this gathering. They know that it's happening right now. They send their prayers with us. It was such a beautiful thing while we were down there. There's one of the main banks in Brazil, one of the bigger banks in Brazil. They're funding this dam, this great dam that's gonna build a big wall, and say it was over there between the mountains, and it's gonna fill up this whole territory. That's what it's doing to the indigenous people down there. The chief rallied up all his warriors, and they dressed up in their regalia. They went down to that bank, and the chief went in there with his bow and his arrow, and he walked right into the bank and he showed him. And he drawn it out like that, and he pointed it. It was the symbolism of a warrior. It was the symbolism of what we're doing in here and what we represent, to say no more. It was the symbolism to follow the lead of our ancestors who taught us a better way of life. It was the symbolism to show those people in the bank who were funding it, who were going to make money from it. It was a symbolism that not only are we going to do it for ourselves and our love and connection that we have with our children, each and every one of us, but it's a symbolism that we are doing it for them. We are doing it for them. We're doing it for the ones that create the fossil fuel, that we too pray that they recognize themselves as a human being, and that when they were born with those teachings of those fundamentals of this good way of life. Like my mother says, I pray. There's an oil company, Kinder Morgan, that takes oil from Alberta tar sands and loads up right out in our waters. My mother says, I pray. The intention, the spirit of who I am and what I want to do and how I want to be with the earth. I pray that the spiritual connection that I have with earth and the prayers that I'm saying will fall down into the hearts of Kinder Morgan. And they'll recognize themselves as a human being, and they'll try to save their children. Like we want to save our children. Maybe not as much to save our children. My daughter did a talk a couple of weeks ago. She's 13, and she said, Daddy, she's talking to me about it, and then she said in her speech, she said that we could do something about it now. In our circles here, we're all sitting together, the babies and the elders and the adults and the teenagers. And she said, we're part of that circle, Dad, you taught me. I could do something now, she says. I'm part of it, and I'll be part of those decisions now. And that's true. But what's happening now with a lot of our lands and you know, what is not talked about is some of those nations along the pipeline that come from Alberta that empty out into Vancouver. Just like a lot of our people, some of us are in poverty. I grew up like that. Some of us, you know, some of those Mother Teresa talked about people are hungry in the other end of the world. We have some of our own people like that. I grew up like that. And here they are. The oil company for 30,000 years is the farthest you could date back man being alive around the world. There's hard coal that they found off the coast of California that carbon dated back 30,000 years. That's how long we've been here. Are each and every one of you, when you moved away from home and you go home to get your spirit fed and you come back rejuvenated, that's the same thing. That's the spiritual connection that we're talking about. And that's what I need sometimes, is to come home. And to be home and to be my spiritual home, to be in my longhouse home, to be in my sweat lodge home, to make my yearly pilgrimage to my Sundance in South Dakota with my chief, my father, Leonard Crow Dog. I need that to feed my spirit. Feed it so I too maybe will be like our relative Gerald Bobble, like each and every one of us should be when we feel this goodness, be our own pebble that's thrown into the pond and ripple out to people and educate them. What we know and what we understand is it's not a First Nations problem of these fossil fuels. It's not an environmental problem as what they say in the media. It's all of our problem. You know, one thing I want to say is no more rallies. No more campaigns. It's like a time of learning. It's a time of learning that we have to teach them too. We have to teach them too that they can make choices as also, that it affects us all. So Kinder Morgan, they bring these pipelines right to our waters in Vancouver. It's been a long time since I ate anything out of those waters where I grew up, playing in that water, eating out of that water, doing ceremony in the water, just like in the sweat, learning to have a spiritual connection to that water, where it really means something to me. Whenever I'm hurt or whenever I'm upset, they said you could go to the water no matter where it is and wash your face with it. Wash your heart with it. Clean yourself off with it, just like the smudge. In our family, some of the elders said, just for what's going on for the Lubicon Cree in Alberta, where it has one of the highest concentrations of cancer rate in Canada, because they're breathing in all those fumes, that the tailing ponds that they dump the oil, the excess water that they're trying to make oil out of, they're so big now you can see them from space. The size of the earth that they want to move is the size of the country of France. So the relatives around there are getting sick. When we told our elders that, I said, just because we should just say no because it's affecting our relatives in Alberta, that's reason enough. And that is. But here it is coming through all of our lands and coming to our waters. Those tankers carrying 700,000 barrels of oil in each tanker, which are the smaller tankers. They applied to have the bigger tankers that want to carry 1 billion barrels of oil. They're only 1.6 meters from scraping along the bottom of the ocean. And that's something else too. Our story of creation, where we come from, our first man came from a wolf. Creator turned that wolf into a man. That man was lonely. He went out to Burrard Inlet, where we are the Tsleil-Waututh people. It says people of the inlet. He swam to the bottom of the inlet. He picked up some sediment and he came to shore and he put it down on shore. And Creator turned that into a woman. Oh, where's my daughter? She says, No, Dad. I think you guys got it wrong. I said, you guys are mud and we're the wolf. I said, I had nothing to say. I said, oh, okay. But that's where we started, where we came from. And those tankers are that close. And they're dredging. They are turning up, literally, of what I've been talking about this whole time. They're digging up our ancestors. They are digging up our ancestors. That's where I come from. That's who I am. And that's why I went on a year leave from my job to be a co-manager of our campaign to stop Kinder Morgan. That our nation, when we informed them of this and we said we want to have a vote on what we should do about it, our nation stood up and we let every Tsleil-Waututh vote, from the children to the teenagers to the elders, every Tsleil-Waututh, and it was 100% consensus that we say no. We say no because of the things that I'm talking about, that our nation of people grew up to love that land. And I heard the testimonies of my elders that still, when I think about it, hurt my heart. That how the earnesty of how my teachers here, how they talked to me and sometimes reprimanded me and implored to me to have the experience they can experience in ceremonies. Some of that cannot be lost. That because he deserves it. My daughter deserves it. Your children deserve it. And yes, again, Kinder Morgan, your children deserve that spiritual connection too, because you're a human being and we won't forget about you. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to come and to share a little bit. Those people down there in South America, when I got tired of being at the summit, sometimes Uncle and I would say, okay, let's go now with our people. We did enough here. We try to send them messages, let's go be with our people. And as soon as we got there, they would stop what they're doing and they say, come on, come and say some words. And we would say some words, and there's 700 of our relatives, all in regalia, about 1,000 actually. And it was really beautiful because I could hear some rumbling behind us that something was up. And they just grabbed us. They just grabbed Uncle and I right here, and they started doing the stomp dance. And we were stomping all the way around, and we looked behind, and there's 700 of the Amazonian natives come up behind us just chanting these beautiful songs. And it was so powerful and so beautiful that it fed me, just like how each and every one of you are feeding me. These are the experiences that I want my kids to have, is gatherings like this, from words of wisdom from each and every one of you to my kids, to each and every one of our kids. As we're stomping along, we stomp for about an hour. And I said, Uncle, our regalia is going to get all sweaty. I said, maybe we should stop. And he's like, right in a trance. He goes, "Rah!" And he kept on stomping. That's all he said to me. "Rah!" And we did a fire ceremony with them, and it was such a beautiful thing. They were so welcoming. But there's a prophecy that my teachers talked to me about in 1972. Yeah. One of our elders had a vision that a giant spider web is going to cover the earth, and that's how the indigenous people of the world are going to communicate. So Uncle Chief Elaine has been working on that, creating something where we could communicate to and send out good messages around the world and remind us how to be and how to fight for our earth. The prophecy of the condor and the eagle is coming closer together. With my colleague, my friend Ben West, and our uncles right here, my aunties, and with Daryl, we would want to have an international gathering to bring the condor and the eagle together within a year. There's so much beautiful things that they're doing down there, and they just exactly match what we're doing. Sometimes there wasn't an interpreter to say what we're saying to each other, but in our ceremonies, our spirit interprets what's going on and what's being said with one another, and we really understood each other. We would start laughing, and when there was it was such a beautiful thing, and we really fed our spirit down there. But how we talk about the internet, they're doing the same thing. They have the same ideas. They have the same prophecies that we're going to use the internet. They're doing the same thing. They're having the same type of gatherings. They're welcoming the other three directions into our circle to learn this way of life that you already have inside of you. My beautiful uncle says the reason why the words resonated with you is because you know them, because they're inside of your heart, that you have them and you carry them. And sometimes when we share with one another, we ignite these ideas of how to be a better human being. And there's nothing wrong with making good people better. So I'm so appreciative of my beautiful relatives. Thank you, Chief. So appreciative of the Stotliam people for putting this on. And again, thank you again for letting us to come on your holy lands of where your ancestors are from. Thank you for showing us the way, how you are connected to the earth and the sky and the sun. Thank you for showing that to all of us. I'm so appreciative of this. And it's appropriate in our teachings from my teachers here that we started with a song. We're going to finish with the song. We did our Coast Salish songs. Now we would like to do our Sundance songs. So the drum's going to come out into the middle as requested by one of our elders, Lee Brown, who's a beautiful teacher to me. So let's celebrate at this time. Let's come together as one heart, one mind, one prayer. Let's each and every one of us be a pebble that's thrown into the pond and send out that message to all the human beings that as how we're working, we can move forward to be better. Physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. We could take the fundamentals of humanity, of love and honor and respect and dignity, pride, forgiveness, passion, compassion, and understanding, and apply them to ourselves as a human being and turn around and apply them to the earth. Let's celebrate and dance together with our ceremonial songs. Let's connect our spirit with one another. Let's send blessings to one another. Let's uplift our spirit, brothers and sisters and elders. And once again, Hoichka CMCI, Hoichka JCM, Chiefs Galutstans not to slay with you, Chief Yopanans not to slay with you, Squamish, Aho.